So we're going to circle back around. Welcome back. We are here with the one and only Paul Andrix. So normally you were hard to track down. So normally we'd have like a little bit of a bio and all that. But we don't have that.
I try to stay hidden.
Yeah. You're doing a bad job being on this.
Well, like I said, I sent you my schedule.
It's your time.
So, yeah.
It's your time. So for anybody who's just tuning in, my name's RJ.
My name's Jared Buckley.
And this is Trial by Fire.
Untold Stories. Dude, that was good.
That was good.
That was good. We should do that again.
Yeah, we should do that again.
Okay.
Good job. So, Paul, why don't you... I want to get back into the Christmas tree thing because that's what we were talking about before we hopped on here.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your fire service experience. We'll go from there.
Like how I got into this?
Sure.
All right. So
you start wherever you want.
It was a complete accident, to be quite honest with you. I had back when everybody was like, you have to go to college, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, all right, fine. So it was the military because I didn't want to pay for college. And then I ended up getting a full ride to kick a football at Ohio Dominican.
Nice.
So I went up there. I kicked a football for a few years.
It's so boiled down. I love it.
Yeah,
I kicked a football for a while.
That's what I did. I got yelled at because I went to try to tackle somebody one time, and they were like, "No, we pay you for your leg. You're not allowed to do that."
Got it.
So like,
wait. Is this a punting or a field goal kicking?
Valid question.
So
both.
I did a little bit of all of it. There was a guy that was a lot better at punting than I was, so he punted. I did the kickoffs and the field goals and the place kicking.
People wonder why don't punters and kickers just both do the same job? And
Completely different. I mean, when you take the ball from waist high and you have to drop it, and it has to drop in the same spot every time. It helps with the whole, accuracy thing. That
Normally.
Yeah, it's as opposed to it being on a tee or somebody holding it, it's
different.
Yeah, it's just way different.
Is it just somebody like they do that so you can this is like so total sidebar.
Yeah, we're talking about firefighting.
But
now we moved off into kicking
okay.
field goals.
There it goes.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Is it because you can focus on one versus the other and like practice it and over? So like they normally don't have two people do this or one person do both?
I mean, if you can do it all, then great. I just punting wasn't my thing.
All right.
So.
Okay, great. Good job.
Thanks.
Back to the fire. Back to the firefighting.
I took I needed one more class to stay on mom's insurance or get my own, and I didn't really have a job, so that wasn't an option. Went to Columbus State, took a rope tech class. I was like, this should be easy.
Sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun, but the instructor is an old. He was retiring Columbus battalion chief, district chief. I'm not sure how they structure that up there, but he was like, I had a lot of fun doing it. And he's like, you can get paid to do this for a living, and I was like, really?
What?
And he's like, yeah. I was a criminal justice major at the time. I was like, all right, well, that sounds cool. So he's like, yeah, go get your EMT and your level 2 fireman, and you can be a fireman. And yeah, he lied to me because I've never done a live rope rescue in my career. So he got me.
He got me.
Yeah, but it's been great. 2009-ish, came home from Columbus, got 2 part-time jobs as we always do, trying to get a full-time job, and was in way over my head. I graduated Friday, started a job on Monday.
Nice.
Then by like Friday, I was riding up in the front seat of a ladder truck. It was a full-time, part-time.
That's 1 week.
Full-time, part-time volunteer department where the full-time guys were only there for the 8 hours, and then the part-time guys were there for the 12 hours, and then the volunteers took over from the rest. And when the full-time guys would go home, they were like, yeah, you look like you got a head on your shoulders, so you ride up
Go
front.
ahead.
And I was like, oh my God. Oh boy. Which is kind of where I ended up here. The guy that, another part-time job I had, I was a couple weeks down the road, again, brand new. And he was like, hey, you all right? I'm like, no.
Nope.
No,
Drowning.
I'm not. Like I was like, I'm stressed. Like, no, I mean, I didn't have no wife, no kids, no responsibilities. I mean,
Yep.
but I was like, he's like, what's going on, man? And I was like, well, I'm riding in the front seat of this freaking truck for 8 hours or 4 hours of my shift. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I was like, I could potentially be, in charge of all these things. And I'm like, I can manage the paperwork and whatnot. But I was like, I'm 2 weeks out of freaking fire school, man. So he was like, oh man, yeah, that really sucks. And he's like, well, he's like, let's see what I can do. So the next shift he put me in the front seat of his engine. He was a full-time guy for 20 plus years. And he was like a lieutenant. And he was like, yep, here you go. And I was like, this isn't helping. I was like, I feel that I'm just doing that here. And he was like, yeah. He's like, at least I can be watched. And so he helped me out a lot.
Nice.
And then, now I'm here.
That was on for Dayton?
No, that was at, so it was 2 suburb departments. The one where I was riding up, and then where I met, Lieutenant Steve Schubert. He was like, yeah, this is what we're going to do to fix that. And I was like, talk about trial by fire.
Do more of it.
Yeah, do
trial
more
by
of
fire.
it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, he literally threw me right into the deep end, like I learned how to swim.
Nice.
Like he's like, here you go.
Yeah.
Did the part-time thing for about 5 years. I was stuck in that hiring freeze. Nobody was hiring for like 7 years.
Yep.
Now you can walk next door and get a job.
Yep.
With no experience at all. Gosh, I was going to all over the place, mostly around local, but you'd test for a job that might be one position and you'd be there for 600 plus people.
Yep.
Did that for a while, got really discouraged, ended up getting married, had a kid, part-time, still a part-time guy. And I was like, well, I feel like vacation and benefits and all that was probably the way I need to go. So I left there for another job. I was a groundskeeper for UD. Hated it. But I kept testing. Ended up placing really high on Cincinnati's police test. And I was like, well, full-time job's a full-time job, and I hate this one. So here we go. Went down there.
Weren't you testing for fire?
Yes, but at the time...
Did you make a mistake?
No.
Wrong application?
No, they just, everybody always said, take every test you can. So you can get used to how they test, and it wasn't necessarily the job that you were after. It was just, if there's any public service or civil service test, take it. That way you'll be better at taking them. So, I mean, I was part-time guy for years. I was like, I was desperate at that point. I was like, I'm tired of doing the part-time thing, and I really hate where I was at UD. So I was like, well, this is it. This is my full-time job. I can't turn this down. I took it. I went down there. I absolutely loved it. I was in the academy down there for 5 months. Ended up I tested for Dayton about the same time. This was like years later. And they called and they were like, hey, you still interested? And I was like, interested in what? Like, it's been so long I forgot about it. And they were like, well, come do this stress test. And so at the same time I was in that academy, I was having my second son. So, or I wasn't, the wife was. But I took that, he was born on a Friday. He was scheduled. So I took my stress test that day. And then while I was in that academy, Dayton called back and was like, hey, do you want this job or not? And I was like, well, yeah. Like, nice. Yeah. And it wasn't because, like I said, I love being down there. Being a cop would have been a lot of fun for me. It was a great place. The academy was great. The students, the other people I was with were great. it was just the schedule I was after. That 24-48 thing.
Yep.
Would allow me to spend a lot more time at home. So I took the job in Dayton in 2015, and here we are. So
nice.
Were
you living up here when you were going down Cincinnati, or were you guys living down there?
So I actually had to completely uproot my entire family because you had to be in a adjacent county.
Oh, really?
To Hamilton. So I moved to Monroe. Lived in Monroe, almost Montgomery, the line.
It's like right there.
Yeah, because the wife at the time worked. She was a school teacher, so she was going like. If anybody had to drive, I was like, I'll drive. And we'll try to make this work. And then 5 months later, I get another job, and I'm like, crap.
Great.
So then you had to move back up here, or you stayed down there?
No, I didn't have to move back up here, but we did just because it was closer to everything that we knew, and it was just easier for like childcare and
for sure.
I mean, I don't know how these people that like work in Columbus drive from here every day. Like that, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, where I live now, I've got like a 17-minute drive to my firehouse, and so I'm like,
that's long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like my brother living in Wyoming but working in Southern California, that doesn't make sense.
That's a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's like you got like no.
He also lives in a Suburban. I hope you're listening.
He owns a few of them and avalanches, but he's a captain in Southern California and moved to Wyoming a few years ago. And there's a lot of firefighters in California that are doing this thing.
But do they have different shift schedules, or does he go every third day?
No. So they trade. It's a bigger department, so they trade. So he'll work a continuous 2 weeks.
Oh.
But then he's got 2 weeks off
2
or
weeks
something
off.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are doing it now, but it takes some maneuvering, and
it's kind of crazy. I mean, nobody lives in California. It's too expensive. You can't live there.
Yeah. I mean, they sold their house in California and bought 10 acres up in Wyoming. And
why wouldn't you?
I don't see how. I mean, I guess it's just a. It's
I see
a different
process.
Yeah, it's just a different place. And I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think about how it would work here, and
it took him about 6 years to figure it out.
I mean,
before he did it,
for a suburb department around here, it might not be so bad. And they've changed our run cards recently in Dayton, so we're not nearly as well. The fire apparatus doesn't go out as much as it did before. But I mean, when you work a 12-hour overtime, you work 36 hours straight in Dayton, and it's like a lifetime.
Yeah. It's like a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, 6-8 months ago, we were doing, your slowest engine was doing 15 plus runs a day.
Oh, geez.
I mean,
that's no.
I can't imagine spending 2 weeks at work.
Yeah, you couldn't do that. They're not that busy. They're not 15 calls a shift.
It's just a different place too. I mean, it's not like some places are just, I don't know, just a volume of runs. It's just most of them aren't, I would say, serious.
Yeah.
But I mean, they can be, and you have those back to back crazy runs, or just your whole shift is just what the hell just happened?
They just happen to fall in like that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you would see a different alignment of how they would want to do that, and I'm guessing that's why some guys in California can, make this work. Is they've structured it where they're capable, but they couldn't be running calls, 15 shifts a shift and go 2 weeks straight.
Right.
Shoot, labor wouldn't let that happen. They would find a way to stop guys from doing that, I would guess. So, but again, West Coast versus Midwest.
There's a bunch
East
of weirdos
Coast.
out there.
Just things down south. I mean, in this area, what seems to be normal here, you go too far from anywhere else, and you're like, you guys are a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
I mean, but essentially it's the same thing,
Right.
The buildings for the most part are the same. The cars are all not always the same, but typically the same. I mean, just some places have trees to block the wind, and here in Ohio, when the corn goes down, it's windy and terrible.
Yeah.
And gray.
And gray. So I noticed that's come up a couple of times.
Yes. Very sad.
It is gray.
It is.
It really is gray here.
Yeah.
Especially in the winter. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I grew up in Toledo. And that's even in the summer it's gray. It's bad.
Where's Toledo?
No offense.
Where is that?
Toledo?
I mean, yeah,
So it's like 2 hours north of here.
2 hours north of here.
Yeah. Almost, it's like kind of up on the Michigan line.
Isn't that? Yeah, Michigan, right?
It's like the closer you get to Michigan, the grayer it gets.
It's one of those places that if you don't go there, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
you're not missing anything. Like,
Yeah. Sorry, Dad.
Hey, you know what? This is good because you guys talk about like locations, and
Yeah.
for 14 people listening,
Yep.
one of them might be on the West Coast, and that would be me.
Yep.
So I get to ask the questions, be like Dayton, Cincinnati,
Yeah.
like how far is that?
about
Well,
an hour.
okay.
Hour depends on where you go, but down to the river from here, it's about an hour and 15 minutes,
Yeah.
hour 30. It depends on traffic. And you go during rush hour, you might as well
Ride your bike.
yeah. You would be fast. It would benefit you to once you get so far, like
Yeah.
maybe inside 27 or
Pretty much inside of 275.
yeah. Once you end up inside of 275, you might just park your car and ride
Yeah.
your bike.
Yeah.
You'll get there faster.
Good times.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
When we go on vacations, we intentionally leave at like midnight.
Yep.
Mm.
You know, that way you get
Yeah.
through like Atlanta before rush hour, and
Yeah.
like, well, I say that like, well, usually when we go on vacation, it's south, because we're in Ohio. So.
Because
Ohio
why would
and it's
you
gray.
go?
Yeah. It's all coming full circle now at this point.
Or you can go west to see that.
It's just so far.
Way
Yeah,
west.
it just takes forever.
So far.
It's far flight.
And then you get like time changes. It's a whole thing.
Arizona's time doesn't change though.
Yeah, but
like once you get out to like
comparatively, it
Sioux
changes.
Falls, like once you get out to like south, like everything is 8 hours from anywhere.
Yes.
It's amazing how people actually migrated west.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they hit all that area, I'm like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Not going any further west. Like,
I mean,
who kept on going?
Did you ever play Oregon Trail?
I did.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Everybody
shot those
got
bears.
dysentery all the time.
Yeah. I missed that game.
I do too.
That was fantastic.
I do too.
Where'd we go? Where we at?
I don't know,
Okay.
but people are. I hope they're not listening now and listening to directions. That's really fun. Side story. I'm going to continue the directions thing for a minute because
Why? What are you doing?
I always made fun of my dad because him and his dad and my grandpa would always talk about directions. Like they would just talk. They're like, yeah, and this is on the corner now, and I'd like roll my eyes like, what are you guys talking about directions? Like, and now I do it. And my wife
You're
is like,
old man.
stop it. So I can't help it. But anyway, yeah, I'm an old man.
I love when people point to the direction, like I'm out here and they're like, yeah, it's that. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like whether it's north, south, east, west, it's all gray. I can't tell anything right now.
Yeah.
So you can point anywhere you want. Does not matter.
Yep. You'll figure it out. It's okay.
At least you don't have to use the, like, I don't know, 12 by 24 atlas.
Good times. I think everybody should know how to do that, though.
Oh my gosh.
We also have
do that.
mountains out west, so you can see
That
something
helps
higher
for directions.
and gives
yeah.
you direction.
Yeah,
so
that definitely helps.
Yeah, but like just because you can see it, it still takes 10 hours to get there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, there it is. It's so far still.
It's like right there, but yeah, you can't get there. I
Yeah.
don't think you can ever
Yeah.
get there, actually.
it does take a little bit of drive.
Anyway,
Okay.
so you said your run rate has gone down.
Yes.
Why? I'm curious.
I have zero to do with the admin side of things.
Totally.
But I believe that it's because we are tearing up apparatus like nobody's business.
Yep.
Our streets suck.
Amen to that.
Dayton streets are just atrocious.
If anybody in Roadworks is listening,
Yes.
please help.
Fix the roads. My gosh. We recently ran into with the rest of the country, apparatus seems to be at a giant standstill.
Yep.
It takes 3 years to get an engine.
Yep.
And we are stuff. I'm running on an engine that has 185,000 miles on it.
Oh,
Dang.
good Lord.
It's 10 years old,
Wow.
No, I'm sorry, 13 years old. We just freaking drive.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that kind of volume and beating it up on the road all the time, I mean, you got to think like it's not your car. You don't just jump in it and leisurely drive to the grocery store. I mean, you jump in it and it is
hauling ass.
It is moving
Yep.
to its destination. I mean, on the way back, it gets a rest, but you go from 0 to 100. So I think they're trying to save on apparatus, which makes sense, but it does increase the load for our medics. Our medics don't get a break.
Interesting.
I mean, we've got our medics will run a ridiculous amount of calls a day, just run to run.
Wow.
Typically eat hours later, cold meals, or just don't at all. You eat hospital food.
Yeah.
Does your department have a requirement you have to be on the ambulance for a certain period of time? Or I know some departments do that where you got to be an operator, apparatus operator, or driver, whatever.
So we call them civilians, or they're on the civilian side of things. They're not in the IAFF. They do nothing but ride the ambulance. When they are on EDO or they've got some kind of time off on, because they're on a 40-hour work schedule. They get FLSA or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But they either get to take the time off or they get it in overtime. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. If they're not there, then we take over as far as riding the apparatus, the firefighter paramedics, and the firefighter EMTs. We are one of the departments that still hires. It's a civil service process. So out of the academy, you come out of you could have no experience, do 6 months in Dayton Fire Academy where you get your EMT, your level 2 fireman, and a fire inspector in your 6 months time there. You're supposed to, they sign a thing that says, hey, you might have to go to medic school. Here recently, they've been giving them an incentive. They give them like a $12,000 incentive to go to medic school.
Damn.
Yeah.
But knowing what you got to do on the other side.
And again, back down to like the run volume's different, so it's a little bit easier to go to medic school. Because I mean, that's not medic school. I don't know what it was like 30 years ago, but the guys are saying, well, the medic book was the size of our protocol book. I'm like, yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're giant textbooks, and you've got multiples of them.
Interesting.
So they expect you to know more, and it's difficult, but it's obviously not doable, or not doable.
Yeah. So are your medics with Dayton, or are they civilian as well?
So if you are on the fire side, you can be a firefighter, EMT, or medic.
Okay.
The medics that ride the medics are just medics. Sometimes they have their fire card, but they cannot operate
as
on the firefighter side of it.
Right.
Yeah. So
they would have to be hired.
They have to come
as a firefighter.
Yeah. We have like a 6-week academy for fire or for paramedic EMTs. You have to have your EMT card to be in this academy. They don't train you for that, but they do. They basically they call it Daytonizing them. Like how
I love that.
Just how we operate. Get them through protocol.
That's what we're doing to Jared. We're Daytonizing him slowly. He doesn't know.
Is it working?
Yes.
Dang it.
He's coming. But so I mean, the benefit of being a civilian though is that as soon as you get, all you have to do is pass the civil service test, and you get moved to the front of the list. They call it a homegrown heroes program. It's basically like you skip the open competitive list. Those guys get bumped down to the bottom, or not the bottom, but the civilians get moved over to the top, and they can move over to the fire side. So it's kind of like a foot in the door kind of thing.
Okay,
that's cool.
Okay,
yeah. That makes sense.
Programs.
Yeah. No, it's
systems.
Cool. I like that. So what are you less calls? So what are you guys running now? Like, are they like prioritizing certain things or?
Yeah. I mean, if it's
You do only rope rescue now, right?
No. Yeah, still no. Still a giant no. I say that tomorrow. It'll be the day. Yeah, it'll be the day.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as, it just depends on the severity of what the run sounds like it's going to be when the dispatch calls. I mean, obviously you could get called for, gosh, I don't know, dog barking, and you show up and there's 6 people laying there with bullet holes in them. You know what I mean?
Good.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
The predictability.
The good old dog, the good old dog barking call.
You never know what you're going to get into, and the dispatchers they do the best they can with the information they're given, but sometimes, it's just like, oh, there's a person down. Like we get those calls all the time, but
unknown.
Why are they down? You show up and there's no one there at all, or you show up there and again there's holes in them, and they're like, well, that's why they're down.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense why they're down here. So,
you guys, I think from what I've heard, you run a decent amount of structure fires.
Yes, we run. I should have looked at that before I came, but I would say 300 plus actual structure fires a year.
Damn.
It's obviously it doesn't really matter whether it's cold or not.
Right.
We have a fair amount of vacant structures. I would say for the most part, people are just trying to stay warm and oops, we do have our occasional arsonist that runs around and just lights things on fire. But yeah, we do a lot of structure fires a year. We've gotten pretty darn good at it. Right out of the academy, I mean, I spent a couple weeks and did not get a single fire. And then like tomorrow, I had 4 legit structure fires the next shift, and I was just like
4 in one shift.
Yeah. And I was still on probation.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, you spend 6 months in the academy, 6 months on probation, and I had 4 actual structure fires. And on probation, like, you're the grunt guy. You're doing all of the things.
Yep.
And I had a small child at home, so like I didn't get to go home and just go to bed. But I could have very easily slept for the next 48 hours.
So the 2-week work.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. Yeah. It was. And some days you don't have any. Some days you just put your gear on to put your gear on to go from one alarm to the other.
Do you like that? The fact that the least predictable nature of the business of, hey, I could be running 15 calls, 4 structures in one shift, and then 5 unknown calls the next shift.
Yeah, I'd say that was one of the appeals about this particular job was that you just never know what you're going to get into. I can't sit still. I don't know. My grandma used to call me a fart in a skillet, and I'm not sure what that means. Still have no idea what that means, but I am constantly moving, constantly doing stuff.
Still not sure what that means.
Yeah, I was
fart in a skillet.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to use that, and I don't even know how I'm going to use that.
Well, I mean, I guess it's somebody that's like an ADHD or something. I don't know. Like how?
I can kind of see it because I think that might be impossible. So maybe that's like
maybe
you can't put a fart in a skillet.
You can't do it. Like it. It's
like
just,
it won't go in. So you're just like bouncing all around.
I don't know.
I love it. I
don't know.
So the complete unpredictable nature of the business and you loving the fact that you never know what each shift is. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with structure?
As far as being in the firehouse?
Life in general. It could be from the on shift, off shift, doesn't matter. Like, what do you do with structure? Because obviously you still have to have some sort of structure in your life. What do you do? Try to break structure, or is like...
I mean, on a daily basis, I mean, I'm sure like most firehouses, you have a daily thing, or like on Wednesdays, we mow the grass. Thursdays, we clean tools and ladders. You know, mm-hmm. Saturdays, it's bay floors. Like Sunday's the only day we don't do anything. Well, we don't do it. We don't have. We don't.
Careful.
Wait, hold on. That.
We don't have an actual set chore to do.
Okay.
But for the most part, once you get that stuff done, there's always some kind of training to do. We always have inspections to do, or hydrants to do, or some pub ed event. We stay pretty busy just throughout the day doing other things.
Yeah.
In between runs and whatnot. But I mean, I remember when I first got hired, I remember like looking over in some of these runs, and the guy sitting next to me was like asleep, like on the way to the run. And I was like, how do you do this?
Power nap.
Yeah. I've officially arrived. I managed to master that relatively quickly. Now for the most part, I drive, but
you sleep while you drive. Then that's the part.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So
that is next level mastery.
That is good.
Yeah, well, like you know where the bumps in the road are, and you know just how to adjust, so it's fine. Yeah,
totally.
It's like Braille.
That's
so. I mean,
that particular bump wasn't a curb; it was actually in the street. But like I don't know. It's on the same hand, like I'm really, really, really good at when I'm off shift. Like it's 7:00 in the morning. It doesn't matter how the shift went or what it is that I did or what I saw. When I go home, I have this ability to shut that off, which might not be a great thing. But I can go home to my kids and my wife and be like a normal human that hasn't, like, I didn't just deal with the guy that had 7 holes in him or something.
So define shut that off. What is that?
The work, the structure.
Okay.
Like there's I will tell my wife about some of the things that go on in the firehouse, and it's usually just us. I mean, but like I don't bring work home, I guess, if that kind of helps answer that question.
It's an interesting concept. I mean, you preface that with, I don't know if this helps, like if this is a good thing or not. It's for some people it is, some people it isn't. Like,
it's come up every time. Every person we've talked to. That has come up.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
it's just like almost like I don't know if like most people, I guess, maybe know or don't know, but it's maybe developed over time that like a lot of guys in this service and developed that ability to shut it off.
I mean, you have to. I mean, because again, like I'm on Ohio Task Force 1 as well, so I go places. I've done things. I was part of. I went down to the building collapse in Miami, that building in Surfside. It's just back to like I've done and seen things, like some of these people that are like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. But like, well, you weren't even there. But like, well, I heard about it. Like, like so
cool.
Some of those people kind of, I don't know, jade us or put us into a spot where you're like this whole mental health thing is like a bunch of BS. It's not, but on the same hand, you're like, I don't know, like some people are just different animals. Like I guess I can maybe someday you won't be able to handle it, but like when you just have to be able to separate your work and home life, especially with little people at home. Because I mean, I remember going home many times where the kid, like the boys, like you just can't console them. They're babies, like they've been fed, they've got clean diapers, they're safe. You got to put them in the crib and let them freaking cry. Or I come home and like the boys are just doing boy things, nothing crazy. Normal kid stuff, and you come home and you're just like, you're tired, you're irritable, and you're like, you know what? It's not their fault. Like I have to figure this out. I got to go away. I got to take an adult time out, or I'm gonna yell at these kids for doing nothing. So you just, I don't know how to help some people, or even if I wanted to tell you how to separate that. Some people just can and some people can't.
Yeah.
Some people create things by things that they hear. And it's for those of us that do it and do hear it and do see it, it makes it kind of like what are you doing, guy? Like, you need to figure your stuff out.
Right.
Or this job just isn't for you. Like,
yeah. Well, and we got a lot of things going here.
Yep. Yep.
So let's see where I go. The last thing you said is some people are made for this, some people aren't.
Yep.
Some people get into this business, this industry, this profession, and they burn themselves out. One, because they can't disconnect or they can't separate, the job from life.
Yep.
And let's be honest, that's an issue within the fire service right now, is people that are not equipped for the job. And departments having to figure out how to and what to do with that. Here's another question that I have. I said all that. That's not the question, but this is the question. You're able to separate work and off-shift stuff, but I'm going to guess you still have learned, grown, been impacted by the fire service. What do you decide to carry over, and how do you carry it over, and what do you decide not to carry over? Because, they integrate in some way, but they don't integrate in another way. How do you decide to do that?
Structure, I guess, like we talked about earlier, like it comes back to, like, the fire service has taught me, I was always pretty good with my time management, but like being a part of the fire service, like you literally, if you don't do XYZ could happen. Mm-hmm. So it kind of puts your, like, that things are going to happen if you don't do certain things. So taking that home, like that's easy to take care of. The trauma side of it, or things that you see, like people getting mangled, or rolling people back surf side, like rolling people up like Hostess cakes, put them in a freaking bag, that was just a different kind of place, because those people didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, like, hey, a hurricane's coming, you need to go. And then they just don't listen. Like, right. That's just a different kind of, and I get it. Some people just don't want to leave their homes. So not saying that they're right or wrong, but these people just went to bed. And I remember speaking specifically to my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but speaking to her about it, like these people, they just went to bed, and they either, some of them did wake up or didn't wake up, and you can't take that home. Can't be like, hey guys, guess what I was doing the last couple of weeks, like,
for sure.
Hey kids, I got a story for you.
My gosh, that was 2021 maybe. 2021. So my boys were 8 and 9, like, probably not a good bedtime story.
Yeah, probably not.
But it definitely helps, like being gone, being at work, makes you appreciate the home life a little bit more. Because I'm ready to come home. At the end of a shift, I'm ready to go home. Want to see the wife, want to see the boys. When you're on a long deployment, you're just ready to come home. Everybody's actually excited to see you. That, I think that sort of helps, but it also kind of hurts the relationship. You miss things.
For sure.
Every third day you're at work.
You're
gonna miss Christmas. You're gonna miss birthdays. You're gonna miss Thanksgiving and that kind of stuff. So you just gotta get used to it.
Yeah.
You want to come home. What happens? Not that you can speak to it because it's not you, but what is life like for a firefighter or first responder that doesn't have that ability to say, hey, I want to go home. Like, I actually want to go home. Are they trapped? Like it's like, okay, you get off shift. Nah, I don't really want to go home. My home life sucks. My kids are this way, the wife's this way. I mean, what happens?
I mean, I
know it's not you, so
yeah, I can't say that I haven't been there. I mean, I unfortunately, like, not just in the fire service in general, there's a lot of divorce period.
Yeah.
In the fire service, it seems to be, a lot more than others. Well, fire service, any civil service, police, fire,
Yeah.
military. I can't say that I do the best of keeping some of that stress gone, because I will come home and I will snap at the wife or the kids, and
Yep.
I mean, gosh, I don't mean to do it. And when after you're done, you're like, crap, I shouldn't have done that. But I mean that probably leads to a lot of people getting divorced, and that sucks. The career definitely doesn't help that, but there are plenty of guys that do make that work, and it just takes the right people, I think, or the right work-life balance, which we don't always do the best job of. I'm very busy. My boys keep me very busy. The wife being at home, she works from home. If she didn't work from home, things would be so much harder. But she definitely keeps that house together. Definitely helps me kind of keep myself in check. And if I didn't have that at home, I might be one of those people again that just don't want to go home.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm not. I want to go home.
Yeah. Was that was that something that you guys worked on early on, like trying to figure out what that balance looked like? And
so I actually I went through a divorce. My kids were young.
Yeah.
I was going through it. Dayton forced us to go to medic school. I was one of those people that got stuck in a 9-month accelerated class while I was getting divorced. That was super
Brutal.
awesome.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
oh my,
Yeah, it was quite the it was quite the event.
Yeah.
Some days I'm not sure how I actually passed. Like I'm actually kind of convinced that there's somebody somewhere that's like, yeah, we're gonna give away so many paramedic cards, and like I just pulled the lucky straw. Chris, man, I mean that was super. That was my only job at the time. Like they took us off the street and put us in school, so
Gotcha.
that's what we did for 40 hours, Monday through. Well, it was depending on what was going on at that certain spot in the class, but sometimes you're working on the weekends. But it was not a fun time.
Yeah. No
and
kidding.
once that was over, I met someone that really kind of, I won't say that she didn't ask for any of that. She didn't know what she was getting. She did know what she was getting into because her brother was a fireman as well. So I'd say that she had a different kind of perspective, looking at it from a different angle, which I definitely think helps. Because like I said, she knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
She did not know the volume that she was getting into.
Yeah.
Like there are days where she is like, "Did you sleep?" And I'm like, "No." Or "What'd you do today?" I'd be like, or she'll text me, or she'll call me, and it will be hours later before I respond to her. So.
Yeah, I don't have any way to relate to that really, but that probably takes some time to figure out, especially being a firefighter, and by nature it's dangerous, and you guys get into some stuff. So is you texting back hours later, is that hard, or is it become normal?
I can't speak for her.
Yeah,
I
for
imagine that it's hard.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes, like, if one of us gets hurt, obviously the news is like, I'm busy doing things, and the news is like, oh, somebody's hurt. And I know that, my parents and her definitely worry.
Yeah.
and sometimes I can get to my phone and be like, hey, I'm okay, or it's not me.
Yeah.
And we've never had anything major. Just like people,
Yeah.
we have had major things, but for the most part, like it's, somebody broke an ankle or
Yep.
just to text them and be like, yeah, I'm okay. But then I have to go right back to work.
Yeah.
Just that little text message is probably good for them.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh man, I have a lot. I'm gonna go to something you said a little bit ago, and I want you to kind of expand on to however you want. The term mental health. There it is. Good. The response from firefighters and hearing the word mental health. Give me your perspective on that term within the fire industry. And I got no issues. Whatever you want to say about it.
I mean, they are doing some good things. It is. I would say it's very helpful for most of us. I kind of feel like I'm stuck in between, like, this new generation of things in this, like, when I first came on, like, I know it's not at all the same thing, but like when I first came on, you wouldn't take overtime. If you were new, you would not take an overtime at a specific firehouse because it was for the senior guys. Now they just take them. Like you're like those older guys are just like, I mean, they wouldn't beat you to death or anything. They would just like make fun of you or look at you or being like, no,
you would
kid.
know.
Yeah, that you done screwed up.
Yeah.
So that was, hey, suck it up, deal with it. It's not a big deal. Move on. But to the whole, again, the mental health thing is, it's relatively new for us, period. They've tried certain things, and they failed miserably, and now they're going in another different direction just to try to help everyone, and I believe that it does help some people. So I just a lot of the older guys are like, nope, not doing that.
Nope.
And I can't say, I know, like myself included, like, again, I've been places. Could I benefit from it? Maybe, probably. But again, I'm still able to go home and not be a complete wreck.
So let me pry this open a little bit more, because I can see the answering caution that you have.
Yeah.
So mental health and the way it's been positioned hasn't been well received within the fire industry, and I agree. It's being utilized in ways and positioned that it's not helping most. The numbers aren't technically getting that much better with what we're trying. So where's the miss of the attempt, and what could they do better from your perspective? And let's not call it mental health, because it just sounds like you got an issue. And now from a firefighter standpoint, why do you want to be a victim? You're supposed to actually rescue victims. So why the hell am I going to become a victim and be a mental?
Right.
So I'm a mental case. That's what you're saying.
I mean, you're
you getting where I'm at now?
Yeah. From our side of things, like people, I didn't call my neighbor for help. Like, like you called 911. Like, I don't, like, we're supposed to be the ones fixing things.
Right.
And again, back to that older mentality, like those guys, like, just deal with it, and
Sure.
I would say that's probably most of the pushback that you get, is that we're kind of in a strange place now where Dayton for 7 years did not hire. No one was hiring. And they've got this giant gap of people where you've got...
What are the years? 7 years? This could be really impacting.
I mean, I would say
that's interesting.
2013-ish was like the first year that they had another class. There were 2 classes ahead. I was the 3rd class, so I think it was 13.
13 minus 7?
Yeah.
So 2006, 2013.
Yeah, they just had a giant hiring
good
freeze.
Lord.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because
jeez.
that only amplifies like you said, that there's that age gap, right?
Yeah, there's an entire generation that
Yeah.
it just didn't get hired or got hired on late.
Yeah.
And you've got this new programs that they're pushing is helpful to a lot of the newer people are buying into it, but the older people are not. And again, it's that thing that we're supposed to help people. I'm fine. I'm not.
Yep.
I don't want to go talk to you. It was very hard for him to get me here. I don't like to talk. It's not a thing for me.
Hence why I love asking these questions.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. He got his notebook out. I said, "Oh, you're fucked."
yeah.
I got my red pen. I'm good to go.
I know.
And that's part of the reason why a good bit of the reason why I just don't choose to promote. Like I'm okay to be that senior guy, which, I mean, it really does play a huge role, I believe, in the firehouse as far as how things operate. Guys can come to you before it becomes an issue. Hopefully, you can leave your officer out of things. You're kind of looked at as a been there, done that. Like, go to him for help first. It definitely helps the firehouse operate. But he said I kind of feel like I'm stuck in the middle of the older guys and the younger guys. Here after a while, we're gonna have a giant turnover, and
almost like a baby boomer type situation, right?
I mean, I would hate to even guess, but like most of our lieutenants, especially lieutenants, and a fair amount of our captains are relatively young, or we've got lieutenants on the job now that have less than 10 years on, which, I mean, that's fast for a department that is very, very busy, very aggressive.
Right.
There's not many structure fires that we won't go after. We're just a very aggressive department, very busy, and to have someone who's young that hasn't had that time in the back seat, just observing alone.
Well, and also, I mean, the fact of, if you only have 10 years on the job, the experience in the backseat, that's one thing. But also the level of progression of life. So,
for sure,
thinking about that from that standpoint of, okay, if you have a early 30s lieutenant, they still have young kids. Okay, so they haven't progressed through older kids and experienced other parts of life outside of the fire service. That gives you a different perspective within the fire service. So
it's true.
That makes it hard too. I don't feel like there's a fix to that, but there is a dynamic that fire agencies have to deal with. Like,
because there's a fair bit of, I'm going to put it in air quotes, parenting that happens as you move up, and younger guys kind of come in underneath you. Yes.
Yeah, that senior guy thing. That's a thing that benefits everyone. To spend that time in the back seat, to observe, to learn, to listen to radio traffic, to just, I mean, again, 10 years in Dayton or 5 years in Dayton's a lifetime. You get experience quickly. I've been a medic now for 4 or 5 years. You get, I won't say good quick. I mean, you get pretty good quick, but when I first got hired when I first got done in checked off and, hey, you're good to go, you're sole medic. I remember coming back to the firehouse after a medic shift, and I talked to one of my senior guys, and I was like, man, it's like, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, you obviously do, because you're tested out the tail.
Yeah.
I mean, we have standing orders testing every year. That's I won't say it's crazy, but I mean, you have to know your stuff, or you won't get checked off. You have to take a written test and a practical test. And that senior guy looked at me, and he's like, it's okay. He's like, if you ever get to the point where you're just not nervous, he said, you need to, you should probably go get help.
Interesting.
He said, because you're taking somebody else's life in your hands.
Yeah.
You get comfortable being uncomfortable, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
It's constantly dynamic. Things are constantly changing. You have to constantly learn. And if the moment that you get comfortable is the moment that you're going to screw something up.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's part of that senior guy stuff, is that that he was never an officer either. He's still on the job, but he's no longer in my firehouse. I mean, I've learned so much from some of these older guys that never promoted, or when I first got hired, like I said, I knew nothing. I was very nervous, and you're not getting that. These guys, you don't have the chance. It's like the trial by fire. Here you go, kid. Yeah. You're in there.
Well, so there is a lot of dynamics here. And the reason I wrote down the 7-year gap, we live in a day and age where that 7 years was equated to 30 years back in like 1950s, because the amount of development in technology and the progression of life. So 7 years now is radically different 30, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. So because everything is changing at such a rapid speed. So that 7-year dynamic of personnel is a big factor. And so you're looking at all these different changes. Well, one of the factors is the next generation of individuals coming up have been inundated with knowledge. Knowledge is at their disposal at an instant, right? We pick up our phone, we know everything, right? So they've been conditioned to know everything, or at least they've been told that they know everything because they've been confirmed by it. Mm-hmm. So they walk into this I know situation instead of I've learned situation. So trial by fire is not as a high value nowadays as it used to be. So all that being said, the fire service still is a trial by fire industry. And people understand, okay, yeah, you know your medical stuff and you're a medic now, you have the book smart, but do you know how to do the job? And those are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anybody can read a book and memorize it, because I'm not one of those guys. Like I have to put in effort,
right, to
memorize certain things. But just because you are mentally tested on something, like I'm taking a test, I'm writing this down. Mm-hmm. I can't. A lot of people, or some people, a fair amount of people, can't take it from the paper and put it into action.
They're two totally different things.
Right. Like there's a difference between book smarts and
street smarts.
Street smarts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with either one, but you have to have a balance of that, and some people just don't. Mm-hmm. And when you got an entire, let's say, generation or class of folks that these guys that are in drop now, that in that 7-year gap where we're going to drastically become a super young department quick, where you used to have guys that you got a new guy and you got a 25-year guy, and then that guy's 2 years on, and now you got another guy that's 25 years on, and it's just when you have that gap, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to lose that amount of people, those senior guys, and like today now, like we are always back to the crazy busy department. Like some people don't like that, and now I can go to a suburb department and get paid more or just the same and sleep more, and you have the experience. And so not only are we losing guys through drop and through just retirement, but everyone is hiring now. So you can like, oh, I don't like this, so I'm going to go over here because the grass is greener, you know?
And it's fairly easy because everybody's
easy.
hurting for people.
Yeah. Well, and you look at it from a department standpoint, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
Sweeten the job to get the best and the best personnel, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So you have this issue of departments trying to get the best firefighters to come in, but then you have firefighters. Are they supposed to go to the sweeter deal or the better benefits or stay loyal to their original department they started with? There's no right answer to this.
No.
There's just a complexity that exists here.
It's a tough spot to be in. It seems to be a recurring theme with the older the generation, the drop guys, that once you got hired, you stayed.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like right. You have you are loyal to a fault. No matter what happens, you are here. And now people just freaking leave. They don't care. They're like, we've got I've got another family inside the fire department.
For sure.
Absolutely.
The wives, the kids of the other guys in the firehouse. I mean, we do things outside of the department, as well as on shift, obviously. But if you don't, guys just leave now. And you used to be like those older guys that just look at you and be like, yeah, you're not doing that. And you'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My
bad.
I'm going to stay here. I should stop talking. And guys don't do that. Like those new guys are like, oh, well, I got this idea. And you're like, yeah, so did we 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't work then. It's not going to work now, you know, but.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it because this has come up on some other episodes too? Do you are you and the guys? Like the term brotherhood got thrown around a couple of times, and there's a few ways of looking at it. But is that something that you've noticed that is still going strong, or is it diminished because there's just this different mindset with some of the younger guys that are coming in now, where it's you're not seeing as much of that, family, in and out? What's your take on that?
I would say that it has gone down. When I first got hired, we had a captain that I started at Company 14, a ladder company. It was the Rescue 2. And we would every Sunday we would have family dinners. So everybody that was, if you were not on shift, or were on shift, your entire your wife, your kids, we would cook for everyone.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. Even the guys that were not on duty that day, sometimes they would come, bring their families, and it got to once that I left that company and went down to Engine 4 Rescue 1 before this captain got promoted. But and we do that sometimes where I'm at, but you don't see it as much. Guys will go to bed earlier, and I can't say that is it because they know that we might be awake, so they're just sleeping whenever they can,
right?
Or hey, I don't. You're stuck with somebody for 24 hours.
For sure.
So you have to either like them or you don't. Hopefully you do. You can make it work. A lot of the quirks that other people have, truly are not a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but whatever. It's not hurting me or it's not affecting me. So
Yep.
the crew camaraderie is different, especially when you got an 18-year-old that shows up to firehouse. It's like, ready to go and wants to go do all these things, and you're like, hey, like, sit down for a minute.
Just calm down 1 second.
Well, how is it affected? I mean, crew continuity is a thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
So if there is a lack of common values within a crew, so, I mean, let's take family, as you're talking about. Like, family is a big value within the fire service. But what if somebody's understanding what a family is different from firefighter to lieutenant to captain to battalion chief? So if somebody understanding of a family is different than another, like, does that affect crew continuity?
Yeah, I mean, we guys in the fire service, we inherently just figure it out. Like, that's
right.
We are what you would have heard it before, where guys are like, we're the jack of all trades but a master of none. Mm-hmm. You just find out what makes other people tick, and you work that into the crew. There's always a spot for somebody usually, and sometimes some people just can't be fixed. To put it into different words, I guess. Yep. And you're just not a good fit here, and they ship them out. But like I said, for the most part, you can figure it out. You just got to put in a little time. But I would say as a whole, we're all kind of geared the same anyway. So it's not too far of a stretch to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper then.
So you said last time.
Yeah. I mean, how deep are we going? Like Titanic or?
Not deep enough.
You figure it out and you make things work, but what happens when the shit hits the fan? When what you saw as, hey, we can make it work, but what about the shithead on shift that, yeah, it's been okay up to this point, but finally he becomes a safety issue and causes an incident because it wasn't fully addressed. Like, does that make sense where I'm going with this?
Yeah, like there's a certain spot where like that senior guy can't fix things. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, yes. I mean,
what do you
we
do?
have had. Oh, well, that's I don't deal with that. So it's an admin issue that your officer has to address. Obviously, you can't just kick somebody out for hey, you did this one time, you're gone. There's usually a pattern or like, this isn't working and this is why, and that officer will go to that chief and be like, hey, this guy's just not working out, and they'll send him somewhere else. We've got 12 firehouses, and every firehouse operates differently. We've got personalities from they'll find a fit for you. Or crew,
or outside of the
or outside. Yeah, some people just don't work out. Like I did I taught an academy class like a couple years ago, and some people just aren't meant to do the job.
Yes.
And usually you can sit down with those people and be like, hey, this isn't working out, and this is why. And they either agree with you and they're like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, and they'll work on either fixing it if they want to, or they're like, yeah, you're right, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I would say more often than not, I feel like that's the way that it goes. Sometimes people go kicking and screaming, and that's when you fire them and change the door codes. But
which, and I know this, we're talking about an outlier situation, right? This is not like a common place where stuff like this happens. However, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the industry of outliers. Like, by definition, that is your job, is an outlying situation. Yeah. Like, have you run that call before? No. No, never run that call. Now, I've run plenty that look like it, but change a couple situations. It never run that call before. So every situation, every incident is technically an outlier. But what do you do? Like, my whole thought process is like, yeah, it's fine until it's not fine. Like,
yeah. Well, let me jump in because I have a question. Because so in between when you're not on a call, right? It's you let somebody else deal with it. You know, chief, captain, whoever it is, right? Like department politics, that guy sucks. We need him gone, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned being stuck in the middle a couple of times. So when you're on a call, what does it look like now when you're not at the department, you got to figure it out, right? What does that look like with some of these new guys coming in that think they know everything versus the old guys that have been around? What does that look like when you're actually on a call? You got to figure it out.
When some of those guys choose to, I don't know, for lack of a better term, talk out of turn.
Yeah.
Usually, like one of the senior guys will be like, I won't necessarily say like shut up in public.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do, which isn't necessarily, well, I believe it's not the right way to handle things. Usually those kinds of things can be handled behind closed doors. But be like, hey, like kind of interject yourself, like interrupting said conversation and try to steer it a different path, or be like, hey, I need you to go get me blah.
Yeah.
And take that person out of the situation.
Gotcha.
And then we can manage afterwards.
Yeah.
So I haven't really run into that issue. When these small things come up that you're like, oh man, that might turn into a big thing. Like after that run, be like, hey man, that's not cool, or you don't do that, or you know, like just don't talk. Which sometimes that's really hard for people to do.
For sure.
And I would say in the way that we operate, usually if it's a typical EMS run, like that officer does most of the talking.
Yep.
Or if it's that officer's not a medic, that medic is the one that does the talking, and you hand them things, or you assist the best way you can. But you're to be seen, not heard, kind of thing.
Yep.
And I know that might sound a little harsh, but like if you're not the medic, you don't need to be asking questions. If you're not the officer and he is the medic, like let him run the show, you assist. Like not everybody needs to talk. You can't answer everyone.
Yeah.
And so
is it something that, because a lot of this you can bring it back to like the culture of the department, because you said, you know, there's 12 departments or whatever it is, and every one of them is different. So is that something that can be I'm trying to figure out, like, if you think there's a middle ground, because you know the older guys don't want to talk about mental health, but that's much more common for guys coming in now. So are there things that you think can be done as far as like department culture goes that can, you know, like while you're out on a run, shut up, but then when we get back, let's make time to, like, you know, write down your questions and ask them later type situation. Because obviously you want to foster that learning and growing and development, because that's what people helped you do, whether it was throw you in the deep end or not. You know, that's neither here nor there. But, you know, is there some sort of like middle ground where you can sort of help that transition, because you are gonna get relatively young relatively quick just because of that age gap, right?
Yeah.
So like in your mind, what does that look like? Are you looking at it from the senior guy position? Like, how do you get those young guys up to speed quickly, I guess is my question.
In essence, he's asking how to fix the entire fire service.
Yeah.
That's
fix it, because we're so good at change.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a good question, though.
That's not a thing for the fire department. They are. We've been doing this for 100 years, and we are going to continue.
Yeah, but the only thing that you guys hate more than change is staying the same way.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, everybody wants to complain about the process, but no one wants to fix the process.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it definitely helps to have all the newer people come in, because then that you're being, not that they're shoving any of this down your throat, but they're bringing it with them, and the older guys are moving on and getting out, and there's you can learn a lot from a new person too. And
for sure,
just because you're new doesn't mean you don't know anything. It's different perspective.
Yeah.
Like a guy that took a rope class 20 years ago, and then a guy that took a rope class 3 weeks ago. Like there's a new way or a new tool, or so. I would say for the most part, you have to be at least be able to listen and then process before you just automatically say, no, I'm not doing this. And I'd say it seems to be, the fire service does seem to be, in my very small bubble here, is that it seems to be receiving some of these things. It's just going to take time.
Yep. Listening came up a couple of times, and that, I believe, I mean, this is my opinion, obviously, but I believe that is a skill.
Yes.
That a lot of people do not possess. So and this is where, I think this spans outside the fire service, where I think the way that we teach and the way that people are educated these days is stuck in the past a little bit. And I think there's potentially, a bridge of this is like, we talked about the phones, and don't worry about Kyle. He's doing his thing over there. But we talked about like access to information and thinking everything, where realistically you probably just need to listen more and be open to learning, right? Even though you have access to so much information almost immediately, you have to be willing to listen. So in my mind, like, is that something that can be taught or trained to these newer upcoming guys that isn't right now?
I think it can be. I mean, if you want to be there and you want to do a good job, like, it's for somebody to, like, in the fire service, it's if we're making fun of you, we like you.
For sure.
Like
absolutely.
And I kind of feel like that's the same like in any profession.
Yep.
And that being on the other end of it, where if some people don't like you, you are well aware of it. They holler at you. They're just mean to you, or they just don't speak to you.
Right.
And when you are not talking to somebody, that just like sometimes that just eats at people.
Yep.
And then they're like, okay, well, what do I need to do now? Like, so then they stop doing what they're doing to try to figure it out.
Right.
And then they kind of get forced into that like listening role. Or again, the senior guy's like, hey man, like you need to be quiet. Learn.
Yeah.
Be quiet. Just get along to get along. And then, then you can have an opinion later.
Right.
I don't know,
it's just interesting the direction that the fire service might go as a whole with, there is stuff to be learned from new guys. Like, when we hire somebody on board at Howell, I love the fresh perspective that people bring to something we've been doing forever. Right. And there's a lot of that going on in the fire service. And I think it just needs to be, I think it's just going to take time, like you said, to figure out what does the platform look like for the new guys to come on board, shut up for a while, but then also like have that space to be able to say, hey, what about this? And not just get like, oh, you can have an opinion in 10 years. Right. Yeah. So I think there's going to be some change involved and some learning involved in just what that looks like.
I mean, when I first came on, like I actually had a nickname from my the guy that I work for now, he would call me Big Dumb. Had very similar to like you trying to get me here. Like I don't know. I was always very, I don't say standoffish, but I was always like I stand in the shadows. I will work. I will do anything you ask me to do, but I don't want to be in that spotlight. And we were doing some rope thing, and he dropped off some stuff and said, we're going to come up here and do an anchor and a change of direction, and we'll be back up in a minute to help you. Well, they were off doing other things. Well, like I took that as, hey, we're going to do an anchor and a change of direction, so get to work, kid. Yep. And I'm like, all right. So I set all this stuff up, and he comes back upstairs, and he's like, oh, it's done. All right, cool. He's like, who came up here? And I was like, I you told me to do stuff. And he was like, Jesus, Big Dumb. He's like, because he was like I didn't talk, and he's like, well, I call you Big Dumb. He's like, because you're not, like, so kind of a funny, jokey thing that he kind of always talked about, and it was sort of fun or funny. I don't know. Just moved on from it, but
what could the fire service do, whether it be your department or other departments, do to better prepare firefighters coming on the job nowadays?
Man, I don't know if you can. I mean,
if you could,
it's a big one.
Let's just say if you could, and maybe it's not realistic. I don't care about realistic. Like, what would it be if you could do anything?
I mean, just belabor the point that get used to the unexpected. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'll see the wildest things. Mm-hmm. Like you see people at their worst. You hardly ever go to somebody's house because they're like, "Hey, thanks for stopping by last week." Like, I didn't stop by, you called. But, like that's just not they don't drive around looking for things to do. Right. I would say ride time maybe. Okay. Like if you're thinking about doing something like this, don't go to guys. People will drive around and they will see the apparatus sitting in the bay, and they'll see guys like we call it ramp. We ramp sit. We in the afternoons, and after dinner we'll get the chairs and very similar to these, and we'll go out and we'll sit on the front ramp and we'll talk. We'll drink some coffee. We'll just watch the cars go by. And people see us doing that, and they're like, "Well, gosh,
those guys don't do anything."
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. They're not doing anything. And then that like when as soon as the light turns green, then you drive away. Like you're banged out for a structure fire somewhere. Right. Like they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So come go to go to a busy department and ride on that medic for a while and be like, okay,
that's interesting.
This is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
We have that part of that homegrown heroes programs. You got people from like the water department, or people from an electrician that's like, hey, I want to be a fireman, and they come right along with us, and they're like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah.
So maybe more of that, but.
Is that happening? Is that a thing?
As far as with the Homegrown Heroes program, it is.
Gotcha.
Like they'll give them the day off, and they will come ride with us for 8 hours just to see if they like it or not.
That's a great idea.
And we do Dayton specifically. We have an Explorers program where we have young people, teenagers, come ride around with us. Some of them move on and join. Some of them are like, no, not a chance.
You got to be careful with teenagers too, though, right? Like,
yeah, they're not allowed to touch anything.
Yeah.
There's certain runs that like you just can't avoid. Like oh crap.
Yeah.
Like, you saw that. My bad. But if you can, like, hey, like, I could tuck them away. Go get me this.
Yeah, right.
And pull them out of the situation. It's a lot easier than you would think, especially when you lay eyes on it first. Like, oh, I need this.
Yeah.
And they're none the wiser. But
right.
So if carrying on with that same thought, if you could help a firefighter figure it out sooner, quicker, what would it be?
Like as far as like the things that you're going to get yourself into?
Yeah. I mean, as a general concept of the job, like the sooner you can figure it out, the better you are.
If you're being made fun of, they like you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a turd.
Don't be a turd.
Don't be a turd.
That's a bumper sticker if I've ever heard one.
I had a battalion chief say it differently, and I said, well, how do you, he goes, don't be a dick. I'm like, well, that's really hard to like narrow that in. And he goes, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, gosh.
I mean,
don't be a
he's
turd.
Right. Yeah. He said, don't be a dick. Don't be a turd. I mean, I would define turd, you know, I mean, it's somewhere a little different, you know, I mean, but you can, as far as helping them along, I mean, just be, I don't know, be moldable, be able to listen, to learn, to adapt. Like just because the fire service has been doing this for so long, it's not necessarily the right way.
Yep.
Back to the change in the mental health stuff. We do have to adapt. Tools adapt. How we lay hose changes.
Yep.
It's just be able to be versatile, but also be able to shut up, listen, learn.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest lessons I have learned are from some of the things that I've failed at miserably. It's just going to happen. And if you're not able to set back and be like, yeah, I screwed that up.
Yep.
How can I do that better? Like you shouldn't be here.
Yep. Be willing to learn.
Yeah. Always. I mean,
seems like a theme.
Again, 10 years is not that long as far as full time. But I still learn things. Part of the reason why I teach is because I want to stay up on things and things change.
Yep.
And if I don't, like, you're just going to be one of those grumpy old guys that sits on the couch and doesn't want to help the new guys. That can be a problem.
Yeah.
You know, you get assigned to firehouse and out of rookie school, and you got a bunch of older guys that just don't want to do anything. Like you're doing that younger guy a giant injustice.
For sure.
Or how you teach them, like, don't be a dick. Like you don't have to be you can teach people to do things and not be an asshole about it.
Right.
And unfortunately, some of those people just don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on a mission to doing something. I don't like the term mental health. Because I think the perspective that comes with it is jaded.
It's got such a negative connotation. When it's just
it does.
You know.
So
words hurt.
So I'm
age-old sticks and stones.
Because the reality is there is good that is within that mental health arena or well-being, all that stuff. Now, how to navigate it, that's why I'm asking a lot of these questions. Is for my own understanding of how you're saying some of this. So what would you call it? Don't call it mental health.
Instead of mental health. Interesting.
I mean, I got a friend we could call, but like as far as like I am.
Well, I mean, if you created a name, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm terrible at it. Like I'm one of those guys that just doesn't. I don't talk about it.
Who's your friend that we could call?
Can we do that on a podcast? Like just
sure, there's no rules.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I guess we could. But yeah, she's part of a whatever you want to call it, the mental health these days.
Yeah.
I actually went to high school with her. She's actually basically built a fairly decent program from what I understand. She's done some things in Dayton. I know that she's been like, yeah, you're messed up. I'm like, well, yeah, probably.
Well, Will she come on the podcast?
Yeah.
Would she? I believe
Let's-
that she would wholeheartedly do that.
This needs to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can set
Okay.
that up for
Great.
you. So
Yeah.
Sounds good. I'm in.
I'm totally in.
Okay. It seems like kind of a cop out for you.
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
no, because
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I can't. I mean, I guess I could come back and she could make fun of me the whole
Yeah,
time.
there
And be
you
like, this is the example of why we need to do this.
Yeah.
But I don't have any answers for you. I can't help you because I'm not one of those people that seeks help. If even at home, like I've got a farm that I guess it's still a farm. I have Christmas trees, so yes, it's farming ish.
We never got into this.
No, don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But I mean, I got like, even when I have a ton of stuff to do, like I just don't ask for help. Like I will burden a lot of things, and then I will drop said things to come help somebody else because I'm like they're like, oh, I got this thing to do, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'll be right over. Even though I'm not doing anything, even though I got like a long
This
list
is
of
not
things to do.
a problem within the fire industry at all.
Yeah,
Right,
not
exactly.
at all.
No firefighters have this issue at all.
Right. So yeah, I am the wrong guy to ask.
So okay, but here's what I'm hearing. Right, you keep yourself busy, maybe so you don't have to deal with stuff. Whatever.
That's
right?
probably what she'll tell you.
Right.
You
Isn't
do
that
these
called
things.
denial? Okay.
But
It's not a problem until you make it one. Okay?
That's true. It's true. Okay.
True.
That's fair.
But you are an instructor. You're an instructor for Crash Course Village. You said it not too long ago. You are always trying to learn more stuff, right? So I think there's people that fill their time so they don't have to deal with stuff poorly. And then there's people that fill their time with learning and knowledge, which seems like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, like constructive criticism, I suppose. Yeah, like
Right.
maybe if I did just go home and like sit on the couch and drink, like
Right.
I'm not saying that that's what a lot of people do. I mean, some people probably do. Some people, go home and rock themselves to sleep and cry all the time. I don't know.
For sure.
That might be how you manage it. You're right. Like for me, for the most part, I stay busy. As soon as I get off shift, I go home, no matter how bad the shift was.
Yep.
As far as busy or no sleep, like I will go home and I will do something. I'm teaching somewhere, or I've got things to take care of at the house, or we leave to go on vacation.
Yep.
I'm never just not doing anything, I guess.
So here's one of my perspectives on the mental side of things. Everybody has a different formula to make it work.
Yep.
To allow you to be successful. Whether that's success in the profession of firefighting or that's success at home within family, marriage, whatever, side job, whatever. My view is that we're trying to fix someone's formula when that's the formula that works for them. Now, what I believe we need to be doing is helping those formulas become more efficient and more productive. So whatever makes you work, and some won't, and some of that formula is wrong, right? There's certain things that you're like, I already know that needs to be corrected, or that needs to be tightened up, or whatever it may be. But let's figure out what your formula is that works, and let's make it better.
Maybe that's why a lot of the older guys aren't receptive to that, or they're just like this. Everybody wants to it's evolving, but the way that it first started was, hey, sit down and talk to me about how fucked up your head is.
Yep. Exactly.
And like I will not sit down with you and talk about this because I have things to do. Like that is how we are coping with it or dealing with it, and maybe that's why they're evolving the program, because I can't tell you, I can't give you an answer for what you're going to call mental health the next thing. I am not going to sit down with you. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why he convinced me to sit down and do this.
I will not eat
Tricked.
with a fox. I will not eat them in a box.
Yeah, I will not do that. But like you said, this is how some people cope, and to deal with some of those things, maybe that is, constantly staying busy. If I had nothing to do, like my wife hates it when we go on vacation. Like if we go on vacation and we take like the camper, or like there's always some piddly things to deal with, or this light needs to be changed. Or the only way to get me to not do anything for her is to like take me out of the country. Yeah. Like we went on
strap me down.
Yeah, we went on a cruise recently, and it was like, you're stuck. You can't do anything. It's not like I'm gonna go fix the boat or paint the wall.
Watch me.
Yeah.
I saw a supply closet back there. Let me in there.
Yeah, I gotta go do something. I don't
know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, you can't cook.
Did you bring a Christmas tree on this boat?
Yeah, like I had to trim
Hold
it.
on.
Yeah. It's just, that's how she gets me to shut down, I guess. She has to take me completely away, and I can't say that I don't necessarily fight her on it. Like I like to go do these things, but I also like my idea of a vacation is like out west. I don't want to go sit on a beach. Like my mind, I have to do something. Going, I was like, I don't know, like a caged animal, I guess. Like if I have nothing to do, I don't do well. I have got, and I can't just sit and read, because I find that I can for a length of time, but then I get bored, and I have to go do things. I have to go do something with my hands. Like I don't know what to do with my hands.
You want to finish something,
and I can't.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah. Fart in a skillet.
So that's, it goes back to like your point that, dealing with things as a firefighter, you're going to revert to probably the way that you've always been, right? Like you always had to have something going on, doing something.
To a degree. Yeah.
I was the kid that got a brand new toy, like an RC car or something. We didn't have a lot of money growing up anyway. And I get this like brand new thing. Yeah, I take it right apart.
I knew it.
And my mom would get so mad. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, "Well,
I want to know how it worked."
Yeah, it didn't roll right, so I had to fix it. Like I would take it apart, and for the most part, I'd say I put it back together, and it was just fine. Yeah. Other times I'd take things apart and I'd be like, "Oops,
I went too far.
Can't fix that." But it's just how I've been, I guess.
Which I think is a very popular behavioral trait for firefighters.
Yeah.
In behavioral trait, as in you like to cause problems for them to be fixed. Wait, no, that's not how I said it.
I don't go looking for trouble. Like
your eye is for problem, right?
Yeah.
As a firefighter,
It's for fixing things.
It's to fix.
Yeah.
So and sometimes that can be a problem, because some firefighters will cause a problem just to fix them, which it can be a problem. But from that standpoint, like, this is how I'm looking at it from the mental health, substitute different term, mental health arena, is there's a problem that needs to be taken apart and looked at and re-put back together. And it's not because firefighters are completely jacked up individuals. That's not it. I think firefighters, in a large part, have a lot to give to society, and that society needs.
You just got to find. Like, I think you might have fixed it. Like, you just got to find what works for them. They will not sit down as a whole. We will not just sit down and talk to you about our feelings. No. It's just not how
and I don't even want to hear it.
Now, but it also it also makes that difficult, because like that clinician, that person that's trying to help you, isn't just going to be able to like, I'll just come out to your farm and I'll watch you for the day, because one, that's time. They don't have time. They're trying to help, more than just one person.
Yep.
But that is part of like, hey, sit down and tell me what makes you tick. but you can't get past that part. So you kind of have
Yeah.
to like know somebody
Right.
to be able to help that along. Which, you know, might be this Allison is her name. She said it'll be her wheelhouse for you.
It'll
But
be
even,
fun.
I mean, you say that's not possible. I disagree. I think that's a funding thing. I think there are
totally
ways
agree.
to let somebody come out and hang out with you on your Christmas tree farm for a whole day.
Yeah, but you're talking like, I mean, there's 300 plus 320-ish people just in the Dayton Fire Department alone.
Sure.
And that's not a huge department, but if, let's say 64 of them are at work every day, you know, so what are you going to do with the rest of them? How many, you're going to have a clinician for every person?
No. No.
That's what I'm...
No.
It's
And well, from my perspective, that's not where the fix is. Like, one, it could be a funding issue. I think helping firefighters understand their mental process,
Yeah.
not that they're jacked up.
Yeah.
That what is my mental process? How do I tune this thing up? How do I get a new transmission in this part? How do I upgrade, you know, XYZ, and then make it what it's needed to be? And that's where you find the success side of it and go, all right, let's duplicate this. This one, it's not working. Instead of, hey, sit down on the couch and tell me why you're so messed up. You're like,
No.
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 I'm good. Right?
Right.
And that's where I think the whole conversation has to change. It's not about you being messed up or firefighters being messed up. It's about how to fine tune the operation or the formula or the engine or whatever context or illustration you want to use. So that's how I see it. I could be wrong. I probably am wrong.
You already said we fixed it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
think,
That's right.
I mean,
Okay.
We're good.
From
no.
my end, that's great job.
done.
Yeah,
Good
problem
job.
solved.
Great job.
Yeah, I got to go back to work now.
And we're done.
Yeah. See, so,
Is this finished like the total podcast? Like we're done with the complete podcast?
I think
or just
that pretty much
episode?
wraps up the whole series. Yep, that's a good one to
Yeah.
end on. No.
Okay. Title it, Fixed It.
You're now
it,
you're
yeah.
now out of a job. Sorry.
Damn it. Shit.
You did such a good job. You're done.
I've been told I have a bad business model. And they're like, you know, you're supposed to like continually meet with somebody in order for them to be, and I'm like, yeah, that's boring.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that?
I want to go see somebody else.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me.
You're doing
just
the same
fix it.
thing.
Oh. Okay.
Doing the same thing that we just talked about with him, by the way.
Okay.
You know.
All right.
Anyway, let's switch gears. Because that's enough about mental processes.
Yeah.
Who was talking about that?
You started
No,
it.
I've renamed
Yeah.
it. It's not mental health. It's mental processes.
No, it's mental edge.
Firefighter grit. Anyway,
Anyways.
coming soon. So I have a question.
Huh.
Because you in your training and Ohio Task Force, fascinating stuff because you get to do a lot more than most firefighters, I would say. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would say that I do more and I get more opportunities.
What is some of the stuff that you are seeing and doing at the task force level that you can bring back to Dayton to help your department?
Oh gosh, the task force that's a completely different animal.
For sure.
I mean, you've got the way that we just training alone. You're not required to show up, but if you don't show up, you're not getting sent out the door.
Yep.
Like you have to a lot of personal time that you have to give up. A lot of I'm one of the Swiftwater guys, so every year we have to go to West Virginia.
Yep.
To get recertified or rechecked off.
Yep.
Just another day away from the family. But that's sort of a side note. Anyway, I'll talk about rope again. Like there's 10 different ways or 100 different ways to do the same operation.
For sure.
And when you've got 30 different departments, so 30 different type A dudes. I mean, you don't just fall into the FEMA system. Like you, especially now, I mean, you get vetted. People ask about you. You have to show up to trainings, and people test you, and I mean, for good reason. I mean, you're there. You are the end of the road. So I need you to be efficient and be able to send you out on your own and do things. And when you've got 30 different people trying to do the same thing from 30 different angles, like to bring some of that back to date and be like, hey, this worked out well here, and this is where we are falling short. It's super, just to see how other people operate, I guess, a long-winded way to get around that.
Yeah.
It helps, not only helps me personally grow as far as doing more things and getting my hands on more things, but when I bring it back home, like, I can help teach it here.
Yep.
Part of constantly doing something and just evolving.
Yeah.
So it helps. I mean,
what's something that you have gotten to do for task force that you never thought you'd get to do?
I would say, well, for the most part, things that we do are pretty standard. As far for like hurricane deployments, that seems to be our bread and butter thing. We go. We are now getting sent ahead of the storms, so we're sitting in it, taking the brunt of it.
Interesting.
Or they keep us right outside of it, and then we move in to immediately help. Before it was, they would send us down like, oh, this happened, we need you to go.
Yeah.
So we were behind. So people were already helped or like hell, I needed it 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah. So again, they're sending us ahead of time. But as far as I never in my wildest dreams, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and to watch that those buildings come down and all these guys like just climbing around this pile. I'm like, I never, at the time, I wasn't thinking about being a fireman, period.
Yep.
But then, here I am, 2021, going down to Surfside to dig people out with. Yep. The concrete was such garbage concrete that we were digging around with spoons and things that you would find in people's apartments that you were digging around by hand. And you'd go through a pair of boots a day, a pair of gloves a day. I mean, never thought that.
A pair of boots a day?
I mean, you would step on things, or you would tear up a pair. I went through 2 pair of boots while I was down there.
No way.
No, wow. And that's not necessarily. There was a company that showed up. Hayek's showed up with a trailer full of boots, and they're just like, "Here, guys." Like,
wow.
So yeah, we were going through things. I mean,
no way.
It got to the point where I believe that they went to all the local like hardware stores and bought all the little gardening tools and stuff.
Really?
We were, like digging around like little excavators, and we'd tear that stuff up in a heartbeat because it was garbage. It wasn't the typical, like at least you weren't able to fly. We eventually got to that point where we found some decent stuff that we could fly out, like big slabs of concrete. But for the most part, or gravel, you're putting it into a bucket and passing it down like an old fire brigade or something.
Wow.
So never thought that I would be
crazy.
Doing something like that.
Okay. Wow. Along that same lines, and you can make this lighthearted, probably the best. I like asking this question. Have you ever said on a call or while you're down in the hurricane, whatever, did that just happen?
Yeah, I mean, I've said some things and I've been like, "Oops, did I just say that?" I mean, we've had riders before, and you certain runs where like people are like really messed up, or people are like dismembered, and like you see some.
Can you share what you said?
Yes, I can. It's not terrible. It wasn't cussing or any of that business, but. I mean, again, to back to the way I saw it, I made light of it because it was very unfortunate for this person. I mean, they died. They were in.
That is unfortunate.
They were in pieces. But for this student that I had with me, I was like, I don't know. This person was in pieces. They had hit a pole and a fence, and their person was all over the place. And there was an eyeball that was stuck to the telephone pole. And she was like, she's like, oh man. She's like, I wonder what was going through their mind. And I was like, well, I bet she didn't see it coming. And I was like, oops.
Whoops.
But that's how a lot of us operate.
Well, and you have to disassociate a little bit, so that's just part of it, right?
Like
if you get emotionally wrapped up in that call, then you're not going to be a firefighter.
It'll eat you. Absolutely.
It just won't happen.
On one hand, I was like, oh no. Outside thoughts or inside thoughts fell out.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I was like, that was funny.
That was good. You're like, that was a good one.
Write that down.
That was good. Yeah.
That's you turn around to your buddy. I got it.
We could literally like write a book about some of these runs, and people would read it and be like, "No way!"
Yeah.
Like some people would be like, "Oh my God, you're terrible," and on the other hand, be like, first of all, I didn't cause it. Like I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. You're just making the situation better.
Right.
As a new driver operator, one of the guys when I was a new driver operator at the part-time department, he was like, it's not your emergency. Mm-hmm. Like the most dangerous thing that we will do is drive to the emergency. From once you get there, we've trained on it and we train on it and we train on it. And he's like, it's just another tactical evolution once you get there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of our training is real life. I mean, we still train, we still hang on ropes. It's still dangerous.
Yeah.
Just now all of a sudden there's a human on it, or there's this car that I'm cutting up. There's actually a person in it.
Yep.
Just because I'm cutting up a car that doesn't have a person in it doesn't make it any less real life or dangerous.
Right.
So,
I think that's the fascination with this industry and the fact that to do it successfully, you have to dehumanize the element.
You'll never survive if you don't.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Some of these places you will. And to no fault of their own. The volunteer department that runs 500 calls a year. That don't. The people that only call you when they actually need something. And honestly, some of the times those places are the worst.
Yeah.
Like they get some of the worst wrecks and. They find somebody days later, or hours later. I mean, for us, it's like immediate. It's just a different animal. I mean, nobody's any. There are people that are obviously way better than others at this job, but like us in particular, we are only better than most because we do it more often. Mm-hmm. The volume in which we do it, we just got good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is why a lot of people train, period.
It's fire service is about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And that's why the mental process, efficiency. Sorry. I'll be done.
He went back to
this
it.
Guy,
he went back to it. I think he wants to be one of those like head doctors.
I think he's really gonna like talking to Allison.
Yeah, like that's why I'm kind of like passing it off. Like,
you're just like, here, I got somebody you can talk to.
Yeah. If you want to talk to somebody that, that's not me. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I'll bring it back. So people are calling you on their worst day, obviously, right? Is there a call that comes over the radio where you're like, yes, let's fucking do it? Like, is there a certain type of call that like you guys get pumped up about?
Yeah. I mean, for me as one of those senior guys that typically drives all the time, I'm the problem solver. It's very rare that I get to sit in the back seat anymore.
Yep.
And just literally maybe a week or two ago, we had a trap very unfortunate for that person. I don't wish it upon anyone, but when I get to go to work, like, this is why I do what I do. I want to go to work. I want to do this to help somebody.
Yep.
And it came out as a trap, and it's typical, you're like, yeah, probably not a trap.
Yeah.
And you hear over the radio that first responding crew is like, yeah, we've got somebody wrapped up, we're going to need the rescues to keep coming. And you're like, ooh,
somebody is trapped.
And for me, like, for that particular run, like, I was like, I'm on the back. Like, I get to do things. I get to touch these tools. And, I'm not the guy that's like, here's your things, and,
right.
We had a couple of new guys. I had a new guy with me and a relatively new guy that was driving, and they got to see, like, if it's just a typical like a door pop or it just stuck. The door's stuck and they can't get out. Like, it's different. And to watch the experience or the senior guy work, like, I think that it benefited those new guys to be like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Nice.
Like the things that they are telling me is true.
Yeah.
He's not just telling me to do things because that's why they do it.
Yeah. No. That's cool. I like that. Well, and that's especially with vehicle extrication, because that's obviously what we specialize in and whatever. And, Crash Course Weekend, you're an instructor for us.
I don't get to touch anything.
Right. That saddens you. I know. I can see it on your face every time. But there's a difference that we can't always. I mean, we try, but you can't always recreate a full-blown vehicle accident. You know what I mean? Car versus tree, whatever it is, right? So there's a certain level of experience that comes in only gained from doing it in the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's.
Is those auto extrications in those, like an actual structure fire when I'm actually on the back, like I'm like, oh yes, like I get
doing it,
and I get to jack some stuff up,
doing it, Harry.
And like this are like you don't in this business they like we get excited for these things, but like I can't stress it enough. We don't wish it upon anyone. It's just that is what I'm there for, and that's what makes it exciting.
Right. Well, it's your chance to truly help someone.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at it that way, I think you should get excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not,
shit's going to happen
about
anyway. Right. So I think you got to go into it.
Might as well be the one to fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're not excited about the incident. You're excited about the operation of executing what your job is.
Exactly.
It is how my or a lot of our brains work, because it is a puzzle that I have to put together.
Well, and that's, I think that's where some of the position goes, where some people look at you and like, well, you're sick and demented because you get excited about bad things.
Yes.
No,
that's
I don't.
Not what it is. Yeah.
That's not it at all.
That's true.
So don't demonize what isn't demonized. Like, no, be excited about it because you're excited about the operation and the tactical side of things. Yeah, you're allowed to be excited about that.
Somebody told me one time, I don't remember who I was talking to, but they were like, yeah, I'm essentially, my title's firefighter, but I'm a full-time problem solver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Somebody around here told me that once. It might have been Cheryl. I don't know.
I mean, it is what you are. You are. I've said it. I think I said it earlier today. Is you're the jack of all trades, but the master of nothing. It's like the people that are like, oh, how'd you learn how to do all that stuff? I don't know whether it's that I didn't have any money growing up, or that I had ADHD to the point where I just took everything apart and I figured it out. Like, I don't know. It's just how a lot of us are particularly wired. Like I'm not going to sit down and do your taxes. I mean, I will, but that's not.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, like it's just that's not what excites me. It's not what makes me tick.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Fart in a skillet.
Yeah. Still don't know what it means.
So
I'm using it.
I am dead set. I will not let this go. This is.
But what?
This can be the last thing if you want it to be. Tell people about this Christmas tree farm.
Oh boy,
that you are operating.
No, he doesn't want to. He's already sold out. He doesn't want.
I'm
no
sold
advertisement.
out for the year. Sorry.
Well, this doesn't go in. Well, we can
listen,
do next Christmas.
No.
Okay.
No, because here's what I'm after. If
tree?
If enough of the 14 people listen to this, you could be sold out for next year also and do less.
But then I'd had to find something else to do.
Yeah, but I know you'll do that anyway.
Problem solving.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So if you could just automate your Christmas trees, then you could do something else.
So we sold out Saturday, and Sunday I was like, I'm like sit down and do nothing. And
sure,
I didn't do that. What? I cleaned everything up. I took the fence down. We put the barn back to the way it was, and just packing up for the year. And I did sit down and watch a little football yesterday with the boy.
There you go.
But I was like, yeah, tomorrow, nothing to do, no work, and found something to do.
Yeah.
I started working at this particular place when I was about 14.
Name drop it.
The Red Barn Tree Farm.
There you go.
Is it still called the Red Barn?
It is. It is. We kept it the same name, and we actually bought the guys the phone number. So nothing changed basically as far as getting a hold of us. I worked there when I was 14. Just summer help, trimming the trees, mowing the grass.
Yep.
And then it's evolved into what it is now. I had a excellent opportunity. It fell into my lap. They were older, weren't able to take care of it the way that it requires.
Yeah.
So it kind of got away from them. We basically started over. We still have a lot of trees out there, but most of them are very small.
Gotcha.
Or 60 foot. And I've been cutting those down and getting rid of them because they're just in the way.
Yeah.
Not many people want a Griswold tree. I have
my wife would.
My aunt's Christmas tree is 18 or 19 feet, I think.
Well,
massive.
I've got some 60 footers. We could cut it in half, put the rest of it on top of the house.
See?
Oh, and we see.
Yeah, like it went
God,
through.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
In the window, you can see it come up.
Yeah,
I love
like you
it.
got part of it in the house, and then the rest of it. I don't know how you do that. Like you'd have to
like,
cable the
mount it or
heck out of it.
something.
Yeah, but
We can make it work.
It's a great idea.
It would be amusing.
Yes, that's a great idea.
But they said, do you want the place? I'm like, there's no way I can afford this. And they were like, well, we'll help you out with that. So,
nice.
So they reached out to you?
I worked there as a kid, and then when I went through my divorce, there's an apartment out in the barn that I was actually able to, like most divorces, they were, or I would say most, I don't know. It wasn't great. It was very rough. The amount of money that is spent is just insane. That should be illegal. My God, it was so expensive. But they let me live there at relatively cheap rent. And there was that was again, I was going through medic school at the time, so I was a mess.
Yeah.
And they were like, if you keep this a Christmas tree farm, we'll sell it to you. And I was like, well, yeah, I don't have anything else to do, so yeah, let's do that. There we go. I
World's
actually
best problem solved.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to do, so
we signed the papers in June, and it was like mere weeks later, I'm trimming trees, and I was off to Surfside. So we're building it. It's been very interesting. Like I said, I used to just trim the trees and mow the grass. Now there's paperwork and like
business things,
nerd stuff.
Yeah,
like you gotta. This tree's got this on it. You have to get rid of that. There's bagworms, and
you love it.
But it was
so much
something for my brain to do. Yeah. I had to learn something else.
How many years has it been since you've owned it?
This will be our 5th year come June. This was they said we've put over 10,000 trees in the ground in the last 4 years.
Damn. How many trees did you sell this year?
About 260, somewhere in there.
Shit.
Now it takes a very long time for this to happen.
For sure.
I mean,
I was aware of this. Yeah.
If they survive, I mean, not if, most of them do survive, but after their first year in the ground, then they grow roughly a foot. So it takes a minute, you know, and then what the heat or the weather, or the, you know, whatever kind of blight or bug or whatever, the deer.
Freaking deer.
Yeah, freaking deer. Like, if they would just leave them alone, we could coexist.
But we can't.
But we cannot. Sorry for all of you people that like the deer.
Bambi.
We just relocate the deer to a better place.
Yeah, that's what we usually do. We trap them in a big cage, and then we move them to a meat processor.
Yeah.
Jerky.
Yeah.
Very tasty. Yeah.
Well, if they didn't taste it,
Mommy, what does that mean?
They'd probably be fine too.
Yeah. You know, what am I eating? But so it's you know, there's only from, well, like right now, we're out of trees as far as, like, I just can't sell anymore. I won't have anything left. And April, when the new trees show up, there's some things to do, like till the new rows or just clean up. But this pretty much the slow time for us.
Yep.
As soon as we plant, then the grass starts to grow, and we are mowing
all the time.
Yeah.
If my calculation is correct, in 2 years, your Christmas season's going to be a lot busier.
Yeah,
a lot.
We get
busier.
Unfortunately, because it takes so long to grow a tree, we are currently buying pre-cut trees from another place, just to stay, you know, like, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah.
And to see some of these people that, like, show up, they're, like, so disappointed that they can't go cut one.
Yeah.
And you're like, crap. Like,
you can't cut trees in Arizona.
Yeah.
They don't have them.
You put a palm tree in your living
Yeah,
room.
you could.
There, you can get up to Flagstaff, and there are some. You get a
you
a
were
tag.
A fake tree person.
No,
we can't be friends.
No. My wife would love a real one, but
when you guys move here, I know of a place you can go.
Yes.
Well, she's gonna hear this, and she'll be like, "Oh,
Christmas trees."
Slowly,
yeah,
but he's gonna be like,
but he's mean to the deer. Like, I can't do that.
I don't think you have to worry about people from Arizona on that front.
No.
Eventually, you're gonna be like, man, it's so sunny in Arizona. I just can't even see.
Or the people that are like, oh my gosh, you cut the trees down. Be like, I promise, it's bad for business if I don't replant it.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it wouldn't be a business if I just cut them all down.
Well, 10,000 trees. That's
10,000.
Yeah. Have you ever
5 years?
Yeah.
2,000 a year. That's where I'm.
Yeah.
Do you know what an old tobacco planter is? It's a spade that gets pulled behind a tractor, and it's got two seats that face the back.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's got these little rubber paddles that come around, and you can move the paddles to. It comes around a chain. Once the spade goes in the ground, it spins. These steel wheels hit the ground, and then they start rotating. And that actually is what drives the whole thing. It's completely mechanical.
Really?
Yeah, and it's well, if the tractor's not pulling it through the ground, it's not moving.
Right.
So once that paddle comes around, you take the crown of the tree and you stick it between the rubber paddles. When it comes up to the top, it opens up, and then it closes when it gets so far. Yeah, you stick this in there, and it goes,
puts it in the ground.
It goes down between the two seats, and it at the bottom it opens back up and it drops the tree, and then those steel wheels are sitting like right behind you, and it packs the dirt back in around the tree.
What? That's kind of cool.
Yes, it is. It can be. If the tree's too big, like, they get stuck, and then it throws everything off. Then it's a giant mess. But it's a fairly simple process, and you'd be surprised how many people are like, "Yeah, I want to do that," and then they show up, and they're like, "Oh, you know, like, oh, this is okay. I'll come help you," you know, and then they show up and they're like, "This is like the best thing ever."
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, because we have a small little ranch in Arizona, and people want to come all the time, and we're like,
"Oh yeah."
You mean
Everybody
feed
wants to
the
be a
cows?
cowboy.
Yeah.
Come
And
on.
pick up the poop and
Yeah.
like
Well, a lot of people severely underestimate what goes into a ranch, first of all.
yeah, and I mean, we have people come out and we'll take them through a whole day operation, whatever,
Yeah.
fixing fence, all this stuff, and they're like, "This, I want to move, I want to get it." And you're like, my kids are like,
They don't even know.
"Yeah, you want a buck of hay bale? Like, go for it." My 11-year-old's like, "Yeah,
You
go ahead."
You should come on a cold day.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you haven't had your coffee yet, but they need fed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have those problems. I mean, we've talked about getting animals, maybe some reindeer to kind of help like bring it all.
Nice.
Tell me you have a
Together.
nickname like Mr. Christmas or something that guys in your department have called you. Like, you have to have some nickname.
That's Big Dumb.
Yeah, it's Big Dumb.
Well, it's got to be Christmas Dumb now.
yeah, Christmas Dumb. No,
Saint Dumb.
Saint,
No.
it's Saint Dumb. Saint Dumb.
Yeah.
Ooh, that can
There it is.
stick.
Can't say that. Jesus will hate us.
Yeah. Can't have that.
Yeah.
I'm sweating a little bit. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I don't know. No, not really.
No, not yet. You
All
don't.
right, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Oh, Christmas tree.
It's been a
Oh,
pleasure.
Christmas tree. I'm going to end it by singing.
Oh,
no
yeah.
way.
We're gonna. All 14 of our followers just left.
Yeah.
If you start singing.
Like, oh no.
Well, I'm glad we got you out here.
Yeah.
It took a few tries.
Yeah.
But we did it.
This was good.
You hated it, didn't you?
I mean, it's once I'm here, it's not so bad. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
see,
not.
I
It's
knew it.
not.
Guessing you're not going to be listening to it.
No, I won't. Probably
Yeah.
not. Absolutely not.
I'm gonna
listen
send it to
this.
all your friends.
Yeah. You probably
Yeah.
should. Yeah. Just.
I appreciate the referral though. I think like Allison, that'll be. We'll talk about that offline a little bit, but
Yeah, I think
that'll be good.
it'll be good for this and
Yeah.
for all 14 of the people that you say
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can't include your mom because she won't. But maybe.
She might.
Maybe.
Yeah, if I tell her that I was here, but that's other things I just don't. I won't. So if somebody tells her, like, she might be like, oh yeah, I should listen to
You
that.
never said anything.
Yeah.
And then she'll be like, your life wasn't that bad, and I'm like, Mom, I didn't say that.
Yeah. And it's that's
Fart
not what
in
I
the
said.
skillet.
That's not what I said.
She will. She would probably, pee herself laughing.
Yeah.
That I said that.
We'll call it 14 and a half listeners, hoping she finds it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say you
do
could email it to her, but she probably won't get that either. You could call her, but she's really bad at answering her phone
okay.
too.
All
So
FaceTime, right?
Right?
Is it
she
FaceTime?
does.
Write this down as a mission.
Yes, FaceTime.
She does do that more often now,
Yeah.
especially because the grandkids. She's like, I get
Yep.
this. Not that she lives in this like mere miles from me.
Yeah.
And then my sister's in Monroe, so it's not far either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like she's far, but she does FaceTime. So,
Challenge accepted.
but
Yes.
she also has to answer.
True.
Like if
Don't worry. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Kyle, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Who
is
is
it.
this Kyle we speak of?
Yeah.
Is that the T-shirt, Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in. Oh,
Yeah.
so he is here. He's
Yeah.
right there.
Oh.
He's right
see
there.
him.
Yeah, you can see him.
Oh, yeah. We can see him. Nobody else can.
Yeah, they can't see him.
No.
All right.
We like it that way. Okay. Till next time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Thanks, listeners. We'll see you later.